In Franz Kafka's novel, The Trial, first published in 1925, the year after his death, we follow the story of Joseph K., a man arrested and prosecuted by a remote, inaccessible authority, but no amount of questioning reveals what he's been accused of. As he navigates a bureaucratic nightmare of red tape and barriers, he keeps coming off guiltier and guiltier at every step. Eventually, it's decided he must be guilty, and he's executed for his unnamed crimes. As Kafka put it, the proceedings gradually merge into the judgment. This story, much like Kafka's other works, fuses elements of realism, surrealism, and human nature in relation to authority, giving rise to the term Kafkaesque, meaning characteristic or reminiscent of the oppressive or nightmarish qualities of Franz Kafka's fictional worlds. Worlds of dystopian normality, an unnerving sense of unnecessary complication, powerlessness in the face of an unfeeling, uncaring, and nonsensical blind authority. Or in other words, settle in. Get uncomfortable. I'm Dennis from Nest for the Birds, and this is Severance.
Who are you?
Produced by Ben Stiller, Nikki Weinstock, and creator Dan Erickson, Severance captures the raw, unnerving energy of Kafkaesque storytelling and visual motifs in a masterful way. Our primary focus is Mark S., played by Adam Scott, a grieving man who leads a team of office workers whose memories have been surgically divided between their work and personal lives. When a mysterious colleague appears outside of work, it begins a domino effect of discovering the truth about their jobs and the nature of their employer, the fiercely dogmatic and obfuscated Lumen Industries. Founded in 1865 by their self-appointed god emperor Kier Egan, Lumen Industries is an amorphous blob of corporate entities filled with strange internal divisions forcibly keeping us apart, like optics and design, perpetuity, and our team of primary focus, macro data refinement. A company helmed over several generations by the Egan family, all but one Egan has held the title of CEO right up until their death, unexplained or otherwise. But much of this doesn't really track. We hear of the glory of Lumen, how it helps industries across the world, but brief peeks at the world show a simultaneously dystopian yet normal experience. Modern times, but slightly out-of-date cars, flip phones, closed schools. We are seeing in real time the way information can be bifurcated as consistently as the severed employees' memories. How Lumen can simultaneously be building a better world while showing a world that seems stagnant or even backsliding. Commercial progress inverse to societal collapse, if you catch my drift. Each Egan is held up as a luminary figure, but reality might as well be a blank check written ad hoc to keep the severed workers like us and the world at large appeased. The true focus, though, of this story is on the severed themselves, Innies and Audis, a simple yet reductive classification that shrinks them to separate beings intentionally. Language like this has been used for hundreds of years to help aid in the subjugation of, quote, lower classes. Now, in a vacuum, it's easy to see the appeal of a world where you, the walking, talking protagonist, thinking of your life as the center of that world, gets to exist unaffected by the stressors of a job, left free to enjoy the meaningful parts of life. But throughout the show's run, we're given insight into the increasingly nefarious nature of the very concept of creating an Innie, and how even classifying them that way makes them an other, an entirely separate person to treat as lesser than. This gives Lumen all the power, Individuality is ascribed to those inside and allows people on the outside to separate them from themselves in a way that eases their natural discontent. Or to be blunt, it's easy to feel okay about slavery if you feel like the slaves are someone other than you. Our first scene puts us right into the mindset of Kafka protagonist number 1. Helly R, played by Britt Lower, wakes in a cookie-cutter conference room, splayed out on the table with a single speaker. Escape isn't an option, and the mysterious voice ringing out simply keeps asking her the same set of questions until she answers.
Now to start, who are you?
The voice will accept the name, but Helly doesn't know it.
Question 2. In which U.S. state or territory were you born?
Unknown.
Question 3. Please name any U.S. state or territory.
Fuck,
First that comes to mind.
I don't know.
Delaware, Helly picks out as if from a hat.
Question 4. What is Mr. Egan's favorite breakfast?
That one makes no sense.
Unknown.
Question 5. And as a reminder, this is the final question. To the best of your memory, what is or was the color of your mother's eyes? Unknown.
Horror dawns on Helly's face as she realizes she can't answer. Hard cut. When we return, the disembodied voice is given a face. Mark S. is ugly crying in his car before work, sobbing out loud, tears streaming down his face, choking and coughing in despair, but it's time to go inside, so he gathers himself and heads there. Despite a parking lot full of cars, there is no one in sight. Riding to the severed floor, we get a close-up on his face as the warping effect of the camera and the changing of the expression conveys the switch. A bell ring and Mark S.'s eyes flutter as his work persona takes over. Expression slightly happier. Posture a little taller. We can already see part of why he's chosen Severance. While one version of him goes through emotional turmoil, he has given away 8 hours of his day in order to avoid his grief. Mark only seems more comfortable as he walks through the labyrinthian hallways, bare and white, with an overexposure that feels jarring to the uninitiated. Meeting his co-workers, we can only begin to wonder what they gave up to be here and who they are on the outside. The loud and profanity-laced Dylan G, played by Zach Cherry, the sad dad energy radiating from Irvin B, played by John Turturro, and the missing but important manager PDK, played by Yoel Vasquez, all share a 4-person cubicle pod that could be pulled right out of a 1970s pulp science fiction movie. A time capsule plopped on a putting green, as if to visually shout its desire to be seen as soothing, an escape. Integrating in Helly R, we see someone unwilling to conform to their new status quo. Others in the group have settled into various stages of acceptance, some dedicating themselves to the work and the zealotry desired by Lumen, others loudly complaining through each task, holding whatever power they can over the situation. Starved for meaning and being placated by waffle parties as a result. The true series turn comes from an introduction of an outside element into our otherwise hermetically sealed environment. A book. What in any other world would be seen as innocuous, almost childish in its attempt at grandiose philosophy, is a reality-shattering tome of knowledge, a sacred text. 12 rules for life if it was written by a dumbass. Oh, wait. Ricken, the brother-in-law of our protagonist Mark, is the perfect example of a milquetoast liberal who means well but can't help fumbling over his half-hearted progressivism and his own desire for success and societal respect. Someone truly willing to work within the framework of society. There's a particular beauty to the simplicity of his book's importance in this world. For all intents and purposes, the Severed are babies, in some cases literally born yesterday. There's an ambiguous nature to what they actually know about existence beyond their walls. They can name a state, but have no importance to the context in relation to themselves. They can discuss the textbook history of the world based on what they have available to them. But they essentially live in Elon Musk's dream company town, one where there is no escape, no rights, and no chance at expanding our knowledge of the outside world. It's only through Ricken's book slowly affecting every member of the team that we begin to see the spark of life burn behind their eyes and their actions. What is most funny about it all is frankly how this book has such basic platitudes that could only truly be effective and mind-blowing for a person with a child's understanding of the world, which perfectly suits the audience of macro data refinement so thoroughly cut off from it. They finally begin in earnest to question the space around them, something as simple as being told, "You are not your job. You deserve to exist beyond the confines of your earnings. You deserve to be free to see the lengths at which your human spirit can reach." But that's the cost of severance. Through this process, the severed turn their bodies over to the system, as we all in some ways have, through no choice or fault of our own. We have in many ways signed over that same control. The dystopian future of Lumen Industries is not too far off from our current world, and certainly not far off from the desires of those industry leaders who would seek to drain every ounce of productivity that they can from us, leaving us shriveled husks. In a world where our healthcare is tied to employment and the COVID pandemic caused 114 million people to lose their jobs over 2020, you'd think that might be a wake-up call to see the dangers of this intrinsic rat's nest of our healthcare and work-life systems. But that would be if the people held the keys to that change. Instead of looking to recontextualize our worldview to be worker-friendly, more was sought to control and find a measure of control over our bodies. Workers treated like consumer soldiers, pushed to the front lines to die for the sake of a coffee. It can be as Kafkaesque as the world where we would sever a part of ourselves to ignore our own plights. Or how in moving to work from home, many people have lost the line between work and home entirely. In some ways, an even more insidious prospect. Without very careful management of the forces at play, that line could be further blurred. In Severance, we see a world that has taken anti-work as a concept and molded it into a horrific practice that serves the employer instead of the employee. This world builds off dystopian versions of work reform, where people choose to opt out of work by literally subjugating a part of themselves to the system, selling off their very body and time in a very real sense for the ability to ignore the system which seeks to blindly profit off them by any means. The very idea is tragic in its obvious benefit to the status quo and a further escalation of it in favor of those forces. We see glimpses of its terrible implications in various ways. The worker forced to earn income they will never see the benefits of. Those who would seek to give birth under a different reality in order to avoid the physical consequences of pregnancy, instead choosing to shoulder them on others. And above all else, the very pervasive nature of these institutions which would seek to control every aspect of the process of our lives, including the on and off switch. Severance asks us, what would it take to force ourselves into permanent, unending service? How much would you need to be lied to? How far removed from reality would you need your alternative self to be placed in order to accept those lies? At what point have you convinced yourself you're free when your body is captive for 8 hours or more a day? And how far is that from our current existence? By the end of Season 1, we see each of those questions tackled in various ways by different individuals seeking to find their own truth in a world explicitly designed to keep them from it. To keep them controlled and subservient, forced to weigh the benefits of changing the system from within, and realizing the futility of that while pushing for the only true solution. A top-to-bottom deconstruction of the nefarious forces feeding us falsehoods on a daily fucking basis. And ultimately, how far is that from reality? Thanks for watching. To everyone new, welcome. And to everyone old, welcome back. I'm Dennis from That's for the Birds, and this is The Bird's Nest. Thank you for watching the video. Like, subscribe, share. It really helps if you care. Join the Patreon for $1. It'll give you access to our Discord, early access to my videos, and lots of photos of my dogs. Oh, hi, puppy. That's a good dog. Oh, yeah, that's a good boy. That's a good boy. Oh, yeah, you're such a good boy. This is an old man. He's 12 years old. The time it flies. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for stopping in. Cheers to you.